Hello, hello, and welcome back to the Business First Creatives podcast. On today's episode is Angie McPherson. I actually
Hi.
met her in person and got to hug her in Dallas in January. And actually, Angie, I just realized you were at Spark too.
I was,
Okay,
yeah,
so
I was
no,
at
I
Spark.
saw Angie twice in like 4 months.
Right.
It's like, ooh, Angie, when am
Yes.
I going to see you again? But I am going to let her introduce herself and tell you guys what she does.
Hi, friends. Well, thank you so much for having me. So honored to be here. I'm a branding photographer, a marketing strategist, and a self-proclaimed hype woman for creative
There
entrepreneurs.
you
I just love cheering people on. Like, let's do this.
go.
And so on the photography side, I, of course, photograph entrepreneurs, small business owners, influencers around the country, really helping them to elevate their personal brand with very intentional, compelling imagery. And then on the educational side, I help photographers either pivot into branding photography because that's what I did. I
Mhm.
started out as a wedding photographer, got super successful as a wedding photographer. And I was like, okay, I've got kids. I don't want to do 8 to 10 hour wedding days on the weekends. I want to truncate my work week into the Monday through Friday and scale my business. So I pivoted. So on the educational side, I help other photographers and other industry or other niches pivot into branding photography and grow and book more branding clients. So I have courses, memberships, shop items to really help people kind of go on the fast track and not go as slow as I did. So that's what I do.
So, Angie, tell me about your transition into branding photography because I know that you're a mother
Yes.
and I know that like branding photography right now is like a buzzword.
Yeah.
I feel like there are so many family
Mhm.
photographers and wedding photographers that are pivoting
Yeah.
into branding photography. And so tell me why you did.
So I loved wedding photography. I love my brides. I love wedding days, but that was in the younger Angie days and, the no, not having kids and having all the time in the world to go out and shoot engagement sessions at golden hour at all times during the week and to shoot an 8 to 10 hour wedding day and getting home after midnight. And I got to a point where I was like, I'm ready to still do photography, of course, but to work a more scalable model and really work with people that I'm already walking side by side with, which at the
Mhm.
time were people in the wedding industry. So hairstylists, makeup artists, venues, and stationers, and all those people I was like, I was really good friends with. And I'm like posting my own photos of myself because I'm trying to differentiate myself between me and other wedding photographers around. And those people that I'm walking side by side with, I'm in Facebook groups with, we're seeing each other on wedding days. They're like, Angie, I love your headshots. Branding photography was not the buzzword back in the day. It was just headshots or lifestyle headshots. And they're like, I love those lifestyle headshots that you're posting. Can we do some type of session so that you can take those of me? And I'm just like, light bulb, like, yes, like this is so fun for me. I love taking those types of photos. I love working with these people. Like, I'm just such an entrepreneurial spirit at heart. And so to have a service that helps other entrepreneurs build their personal brand, deck out their website, deck out their
Mhm.
social media, I'm like, this is what I was looking for. Like, still in my creative spirit, my love of photography. And I also have a very extensive marketing background. And I'm like, this is like the dream business. Like, why didn't I think of this sooner? And I didn't because nobody was really caring back in the day. Everyone used their logo for their profile photo and you never saw who was in front, of the business. And so things have shifted. And so branding photography has shifted into, like you said, this big buzzword. Everyone needs new branding photos for their
Mhm.
website, for their sales pages, for their opt-ins, for their email marketing, everything. And so I started to offer this, and more people started booking me. People started to fly me out because there were no brand photographers in their market. And I just built this
Yes.
really awesome business. And not only that, but just pivoting into this niche has just expanded my network. I mean, I'm talking to all different types of people. I'm working with different types of people. I have different services that have, branched off from my brand photography. Like now I'm doing product photography. It's just, I'm not in this bubble of, not that wedding photography was a bubble, but for me, it was a bubble. There was no way to kind of get out and do something a little bit more creative. And so now I just feel like the opportunities for my business are truly limited, like just not unlimited. Like I can do, whatever I want and
Yes.
go in any direction.
I mean, and you've truncated your work schedule. You are no longer working on the
Yes.
weekends. You are working Monday through Friday. I mean, that's similar to why I started doing Dubsado setups
Mm-hmm.
is I mean, I've only got one kid and she's
Yeah.
12 and, you know, I didn't want to be gone every single weekend.
Yeah.
And so I was like, ooh, what can I do when she's gone during the day?
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, these Dubsado setups are like
Yeah.
awesome. Like, this is
And
great.
people need
I don't
that.
have to like chase toddlers.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Yes. You kind of glossed over it. So we're going to go
Okay.
back. What is your extensive marketing background?
Yeah, so I graduated from college with a degree in communication, and my dream at the time, I had a couple dreams. I wanted to work in marketing, PR. My dream was to be Drake's publicist. Like I just wanted to be his publicist.
That's
and
real specific, Angie.
It's still like well, now it's more like I want to be his photographer. Like with every iteration of my business, I'm like, how can I work with Drake? Like as a wedding photographer, I was like, is he ever going to get married? Now I'm like, I can be his, brand photographer, his concert photographer. That's neither here or there. I wanted to be in the marketing PR sector. So my background, I worked at radio stations in the marketing department. I worked in newspapers. I worked at TV stations. And before I quit my job, I was the marketing director of a local concert venue. So we had, Beyonce and the Circus and Monster Jam and all these different events. And I was the marketing director, which basically means my job was to get butts and seats. It was to get people there. And it really helped with this business because I was working on a such larger scale. We had 10,000 seats in the building. And so every time a new event would come, I had to create an actual marketing plan. I had to create a budget. I had to share with, the president of the venue, like where exactly we need to market, what radio stations, what social media platforms, how much we're spending in Facebook ads. So to go from that big of a scale of marketing to I'm the product and I have a handful of services and I have one, maybe two target audiences. I mean, try to market in April a Beyonce concert to the Beehive. And then in the fall, I'm marketing Monster Jam to moms with kids. And so I had an extensive experience of really figuring out who am I talking to? What is their desire? How can we market to them? What platforms are they on? The Beyonce fans are on one platform, but the moms that are taking their kids to the circus, they might be in Facebook groups. They might be reading blogs. They might be passing by a billboard down the street. And so I've had to take that into my business, which has really helped me with my photography. It's helped me with my education, just really thinking about who am I targeting, where are they showing up, how am I speaking to them? I love having that background. I wish, I had gone to my dream and been his publicist, and that's another lifetime. But this is just as amazing.
It is, Angie. And I think that that's like the best segue into our next topic, which I was like, well, damn, maybe Angie should be doing this podcast. So let's talk about Instagram.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that like really caught my eye at the Creative Educators Conference where you were a speaker was I was like, damn, her Instagram is on point. Like you made me excited to go make reels again, which is not, it's a hard thing to do because Instagram is not where my love is, girl.
Yeah.
I actually take so many things from this podcast and just repurpose it because I don't want to do all of that. But so tell me about your specific focus on Instagram and what kind of results you have seen from like Instagram being your main marketing channel.
I love Instagram. I mean, I've had it since its inception, over a decade ago when it was just all about showing what you were eating, for dinner that night and where you were going. And it's just evolved so much. And I just try to take the pressure off. I just try to look at it as a way to connect with my audience. That's my number one goal. If I'm making a connection in some way, then I've done my job. So that connection can be me sharing some insight into my personal life, like me and the kids and my husband going to the farmer's market on the weekends, or that could be me just really helping photographers figure out their plan to book their next client. That could be me showing potential photography clients how they can be using their photos to revamp their website. So it's all about connection for me. And that takes away the pressure of how I want to show up because I just know I'm genuinely, authentically trying to connect with people and help them in some way or fashion. And it's done so well for me. I share my opt-ins there. I share my services there. I share education there. And I don't feel like I'm selling. I just feel like I'm just really trying to help people. it blows my mind how many actual like photography clients truly just convert through Instagram. You know, a lot of people say, "Oh, I want to book more clients, but my Instagram is dead," or I'm trying to focus on this platform or that platform. Nobody's inquiring through Instagram. And I'm like, man, most of my clients will start following me. They'll see what I'm doing. They'll start to comment on my post. A couple weeks later, we're in the DMs chatting. And then I see the inquiry come in through email. And I know that they've gone through the journey of seeing who I am, seeing, the experience and the expertise that I provide, seeing what my client experience looks like, what my offers are, and then they're ready to inquire. So when people tell me that they don't get any inquiries or that their Instagram is like ghosted, I'm like, well, what are you doing? What are you putting out there? Are you sharing, the journey? Like, everyone's like, what's your marketing strategy? What's your marketing strategy? And if I could just simplify it, it is
I'm being me.
Right, to share the journey. That's all you have to do. And you can, of course, make a bunch of different strategies, but align it with that. Share the journey of what you do in your business, who you serve in your business, what your experience looks like for your clients, how your clients have, been transformed with your experience. People are watching. You might think that, oh, I don't have a lot of engagement on my post or this or that. And I read some meme or some GIF or something that said, look at the number of people who actually engage and comment on maybe a social media post, and then look at your views in your stories. Your stories are going to be way higher because people might not engage, but they are watching you. Okay. They're looking at your stuff. They're swiping through, being nosy. They might not comment. They might not support you on the public facing side, but they're watching, and they will eventually, if they're interested, land in your inbox.
Oh my God, Angie, that is like perfect. Like, I think that people they want to show up very polished and very professional, and they don't understand that that is not what gets people to engage with you. You being relatable is what gets people to engage with your content. And so share the journey. Like, I always tell everybody that's on my show, like, what would I put on a t-shirt for you? And I think for you, Angie, it would just be share the journey.
Oh, I love that. I love that.
So tell me about, this could be two different ones. Like, tell me about your favorite reel, or tell me about the one that got the most engagement. Because I'm just always curious, because people don't understand that it's not like the ones that are really flashy that get you the most engagement. I mean, I did one where I was showing people my new espresso machine, which my husband makes me a brand new latte every morning. That got so much engagement. People asking me where it was from.
Exactly. You better get that affiliate link ready.
I use. Like,
you better get that Amazon.
I do have one now.
Okay, good. My highest reels are either entertaining or they're like savable, shareable content. So, for example, entertaining. I think my highest reel, I was literally in the kitchen and there was a trend that was basically talking about, it was like the Ludacris song. I can't even think of the song. What was it? It was like the Ludacris song.
I mean, Luda, that's all you had to go with. I'm there.
Yeah, I was basically playing like two different people, like me putting my kid down for nap time, and then the other person was an Amazon driver coming up and beating the crap out of my door, putting the Amazon boxes down, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I just put the kid down for a nap. And for some reason, that just like took off. I think it was also the season. I posted it like right before Christmas when people are expecting a lot of packages. And, my audience, a lot of my audience are moms with young children. And so it was just super relatable. Like you said, it was super relatable. Like, oh my gosh, I hate when I just put my kid down for a nap. And then, the delivery driver rings the doorbell, kicks the door down, and throws the boxes at the door. That was definitely a big one. Another one I did a couple of weeks ago, I did it at the conference, at the Creative Educator Conference with two other photographers. And it was, yes. And the audio was basically, I think it was like the Super Smash Brothers, like video game where it's like, choose your character. And I was like, let's all be a different type of photographer. And so I was like the hype girl, overshooter. And then there was someone who needs a step stool to take pictures and someone who always leaves the lens cap on. And so once again, very relatable, very entertaining. And I just feel like that's what people are craving now on social media. They want to be entertained. They want to take something away from it. I know I'm obsessed with TikTok, and that's what I want. I want to be entertained. It's like a little a moment of peace where I can either be super entertained or I can walk away and be like, oh, I just learned something super helpful, or I just found this easy recipe, or I found this hack for creating something in Canva. Like, people want to take something away from what you're sharing.
Which because I'm old, Angie, I don't know if you know this, but like I'm not really on TikTok. TikTok's not my thing. But I didn't realize until someone said it recently that all the young kids are using TikTok like I use Google.
Yes.
And I was just like, what?
Yes.
They're like, yeah, anything that they want to know, they're not Googling it. They're going to TikTok to see if someone has made a video. And I was just like,
100%.
like,
and I do the same thing.
I get it now.
Yeah, I do the same thing. I was not on TikTok for a while, and then I made the mistake of downloading the app and swiping a few things, and then I have not looked back since. I'm obsessed. As a consumer, I don't create much, but I will consume some TikTok. And whenever I'm thinking about making a purchase or just seeing, some insight into something, before I used to go to Google and I used to go to YouTube. Those are my two big things. Who's talking about this? Who has a blog about this? Who has a video about this? Now I just go to TikTok. That's the first thing I do. It's the first. I was looking at upgrading my camera. Back in the day, I would have typed in Canon R6 into Google, into YouTube, into something. I went straight to TikTok. It is crazy.
Amazing. I don't think about TikTok as a search engine.
Oh, it is.
Like,
it is.
To me, that's just weird. Yeah.
It is. And I like it because you're getting so many different perspectives of what you're looking for. When I feel like when you're on Google, you have to kind of like comb through, the first 2 pages. When you're on YouTube, people don't have time anymore. Like, I don't want to see a 27-minute about the Canon R6. I want somebody to tell me in 60 seconds if I need to upgrade my camera. Like, I want it to be quick. I want it to be digestible. And so when I'm creating content for my audience, I'm thinking of the same thing. What can I create in less than 30 seconds in an Instagram reel, or in less than 3 paragraphs on a blog post, or just, something quick on an Instagram story? Like, how can I just help take somebody to the next level, or have a mindset shift, or help them make a decision in a small amount of time? Because times have changed. Back in the day, I used to just sit and read blogs, long blogs, watch whole YouTube videos, and I loved it. But now, as we talked about, things have changed. We have more responsibilities. We have businesses to build. We don't have time for all that. So I want to know what I want to know in a very small amount of content.
Immediately.
Yeah.
Like, tell me now. Give me the bottom line. Yeah. Now, I feel like there's one other thing that I want to go back to, because it wasn't until, do you know who Jerishia Hawk is?
I don't know.
Oh my gosh, I'm going to share her content with you. You would love her. Yeah. But one of the things that she said recently, she stopped doing her podcast for like a full year and a half. And then when she came back, she did like an explanation of why she stopped the podcast.
Oh, okay.
And like what she talked about was something completely that I didn't understand. What she was saying was that in her business, she decided to go all in on Instagram. She talked about it like an ecosystem, like a complete booking ecosystem. And I was like, no, because from my perspective, like a Dubsado specialist, I'm like, no, you nurture them on Instagram, but then you get them into your CRM as quickly as possible, so that you can go through your sales process. But listening to this episode with Jerishia, she was basically saying the same thing that you are. Like, you can do the entire sales process, except take the money inside of Instagram. They're seeing your content. They're chatting with you in the DMs. They're commenting on your posts. And so, like, on a monthly basis, let's say, like, what percentage of your clients are you actually closing, like, completely in the Instagram ecosystem? Because of course, for someone like you who's very engaging and talking to all of your clients on Instagram constantly, I'm sure the algorithm loves you because you're not trying to get people off of Instagram.
Right.
You don't care if you're there talking to them every day for a month, and then, you get the inquiry and you close the sale.
Right.
But so, like, what's the percentage of people that are actually finding you and that you are perhaps closing within the Instagram ecosystem?
That's a good question. So when someone says they're ready for more information, I immediately do move them into email. I don't want to be talking about money through DMs, because I get so many DMs, I will lose it. Like I will lose the contact info. It'll go down. And with email, you can file things away, you can add attachments, you can send links, things like that. So like I do what you said. I'm nurturing in the social media world. And then as soon as they're ready to book, I'm like, okay, what's your email address? I'll follow up via email. So as far as the closing percentage, gosh, I can't even begin to think. It's pretty high. Once I get someone into my email, it's a high chance that they'll move forward. But it takes the time to get them there, because like you said, not a lot of people want to leave the platform. I don't pitch like as soon as they DM me like, hey, let's email. It's only when they say
like, hey, let's email.
Only if they say, hey, I'm interested in booking a branding shoot or a branding mini session, or I'm interested in, do you have a strategy call, or is there a course you can teach me XYZ? Then we move into email, and I can include, different links like that. But as far as social media, I'm definitely mostly nurturing there.
Nurturing. Okay. Yeah. I mean, and it's just so interesting to hear people's perspective though. Cause a lot of times when people are like, oh, I don't get that many inquiries, or, I can't close them. I'm like, okay, but like, what was your process?
Right.
And they're always talking about how they're talking about the sale from the get-go. Yeah, no, that person did not come to you to like buy something from you immediately. Right. They came to you because your content was relatable and they just want to have a conversation. Right. Now, I mean, don't get me wrong, guys. For a majority of people, we do want to push them along to eventually make a buying decision. But like, that's not what you should lead with. Exactly. Like there are other ways that you can nurture people, keep them in your atmosphere, keep them commenting on your reels. Cause hey guys, if you like meet someone on Instagram and you are chatting in the DMs, chances are Instagram is going to show them your content more often. And then they're going to comment on your content more often, which again brings more people and more eyeballs onto your content. So it's, it's an ecosystem, guys.
Yeah, absolutely.
Be friendly.
Absolutely.
Nurture.
Be friendly, nurture, and just be authentic. Don't just poach people to have them work with you. I have people that show up in my other folder in Instagram, and I'm like, oh, I already know this is going to be somebody pitching me something, and they're just like, hey, I followed you for a long time, and I love what you're doing, and would you be interested in this? And I'm like, okay, first of all, I can see that you don't follow me. Not that that matters, but don't lie. And then second of all, you're pitching me on something I had no interest in asking about. I never asked you about web design, or I never asked you. Some people would be like, hey, are you looking for like weight loss pills? And I'm like, that's offensive. Why are you even sending me that? And so don't just randomly have no connection before. Now, if this was a situation where I'm posting stories on my Instagram and I'm like, oh, I'm working on my website. Gosh, this takes so much time. I wish I had a better system and da-da-da-da. And there's a web designer and she's commenting on my post. She's DMing me. She's giving me free advice right there. Like, hey, you could save time if you did XYZ. I wouldn't be offended if a couple weeks down the line, she's like, hey, I've noticed, this and that about your website. I'd love to offer you maybe a 20-minute Zoom call, kind of tell you what I can improve. Like, oh, that's great. Like I've hired a VA like that. Like that's great. But don't just come off
the bat. That's how I got my
VA. Yes. Exactly. Like don't come off the bat with a pitch. You got to warm me up a little bit. Take me out to dinner or something. Come on.
I'm not a fast girl. Okay? Don't do that to me. Angie, speaking of virtual assistants, this is perfect. What do you outsource in your business? And is any of it Instagram related, or is all that all you all the time?
Oh my gosh. I love this question. People are like, do you outsource Instagram? That's the one thing I cannot let go of. And that's not me making a blanket statement to everyone. I just say whatever you're passionate about and whatever you are good at, hold close to you and put everything else, outsource everything else. So I respond to all my DMs, all my comments. I create all my own content because I love doing it. And I want to know who I'm talking to. I don't want somebody answering my DMs and having these relationships with people because I'm all about building relationships. And then if somebody inquires for a branding shoot, I'm like, hey, nice to meet you. She's going to be like, we've been talking on DMs for 2 weeks. Don't remember me? I don't want that type of drama, okay? I want to be that person that you talk to on Instagram and that person who's answering your email. Other things that I will outsource is market research. So I will, if people are asking me a lot of questions, I'll have my VA kind of go through and put a lot of the questions in a Google Doc so I can see what are people really struggling with. You know, I've had her go through and just swipe through reels and find trending audios that she thinks I could probably come up with a concept to create something for. I'll make like cornerstone content. So I'll write like a good blog post. For example, I just did a blog post the other day about 3 ways to get your next branding client. Or I've done one about, 5 location ideas for your branding shoot. And I will make the content, I'll write the content, and then she will put it into a blog post. She will put it into email marketing. She will truncate it small enough to put into maybe a social media caption that I can revise. I'm an Enneagram 3. I've got to have my hands on everything before it goes to press. So,
Anywhere.
Yeah. And it's an advantage and it's also a disadvantage because I wish I could just completely relinquish control on a lot of things, but I like to see stuff, especially because I am a personal brand. I want to see everything that's going out to publish. I don't want anybody speaking on behalf of me before I see it. And she does a lot of stuff with my educational program. So she'll go and, go into my back end, making sure that, images are, for example, I use Kajabi for my courses. So she's making sure that, the images are in the right place. She's building out the checkout pages. So I'm holding mostly to the marketing content because that is what I love to do. And then everything else, she's doing a lot of admin tasks.
But Angie, all of this just makes so much, first of all, that you're an Enneagram. I realize now why I love you.
What are
That's
you?
Number one. I'm an 8,
Okay.
but like only by a smidge higher than a 3. I mean, like it was like 1 point. Yeah, I'm definitely an 8. I don't like people telling me what to do, which I honestly think that like I'm a challenger and I'm also a Leo. So that makes even more sense.
I'm a Virgo.
Like, yeah, I feel like when we have these kinds of conversations, I'm like, yeah, I can totally see that about you. But no, I do love that you hold on to all of your marketing because the funny thing is that is what a lot of photographers struggle with. And so those are the kinds of things that they want to outsource. But I'm like you, I don't like being in my Instagram DMs, but I could never trust my VA to do it. I love Sarah. Hey, Sarah, if you're listening to this, I love you. But like she doesn't know who I know.
Yes.
And so it would be totally embarrassing if she said something and she doesn't know that like, okay, no, that's like my bestie and we went to dinner last week. Like that would be super embarrassing. My bestie would laugh. Also that would be super embarrassing.
I've been on the receiving end of that. I have contacted people that I've met in person and that I adore and we've traveled together and they have a new VA and they're responding to my DM and I'm like, is that Susie or is that somebody else? Like, I don't, that's not how you talk. And, so I just couldn't do that. But, that's not a blanket statement. That's just who I am and how I want to connect with people.
I mean, and since I'm just mentioning people, I know you know Jordan Gill because she was a speaker with you at Creative Educators. So one of the things that I love about her Instagram is that I know her emails are gatekept, but her Instagram is not. So I know when I chat with her on Instagram, I know that I'm talking to Jordan. And so that is fabulous. Like I know that I'm never going to get like a weird response. It's great. Angie, we have talked about so many things. I'm going to bring it around to the question that I ask all my guests, which is, what was your biggest fuck up in your business? What did you learn from it? And how did you grow?
Okay, I had to think about this. There's so many different directions I could go, but I think I was being asked to provide a service from a couple of different types of people, and that service was product photography. And I would immediately say, no, not interested. It's not something that I want to do. And I would see that brand or business go with other, people. Like I would eventually follow up, and look at their social media, look at their website to see if they actually got the photos done. And I looked at the photos and I'm like, what a waste. Like I could have done this and I could have made a lot of money. Like I can't believe.
So much better.
Yeah. And not even just like better, but just like, I don't know why I was so intimidated thinking that I couldn't do it when I'm looking at these photos and I'm like, oh my gosh, like, I have passed over probably because these weren't just like small personal brands. These were big, major brands with lots of money, corporate marketing department. And I'm like, I can't believe for years, I just passed up this opportunity. I passed up these networking opportunities. I passed up this money. I passed up the opportunity to make money from home because most of it I can do at home. And so right when the pandemic hit, I got an email from a company who has an Amazon they share on Amazon. They have products on Amazon, social media. And they emailed me and said, do you offer product photography? And I remember my kids were around, they were screaming, they were being silly. And I was just like, oh, I don't have time for this. And I literally typed up, no, I'm not interested, da 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 da. And it sat there for a day. I didn't send it. It sat there for a day.
Aww.
And something told me, it was like, we were in the pandemic. And I'm like, girl, you can't go out and shoot right now. Like, why don't you just take this
Get that money, girl.
Right. Why don't you just take this one, brand and see what happens? And that was 3 years ago. And since then, my product photography has taken off. I'm on a monthly retainer with the same brand, and I've made thousands and thousands of dollars just by working with them over the past 3 years. And so then other people are like, how did you get into this? How do you price this? How do you market this? I'm like, okay, I'm going to make a mini course because people are interested. Yes. There's not a lot out there. And so I made a mini course, which has made me some great revenue. And so I would say my mistake was just waiting and just immediately feeling like imposter syndrome, feeling intimidation, and just not even considering what the possibilities could be. And so now when things come into my inbox like that, instead of immediately saying no, I take a day, think about how I can do this. For example, people are now wanting reels. They're wanting video clips and short form content with their branding shoots, with their product shoots. And I could easily be like, no, I don't have time to figure that out. Like, no, I'm going to figure it out because this is something that people need. I know that I'm good at it. I know that I'm good at it for myself. And so now I'm creating short form reels for clients. And the more that I'm sharing about them, the more that other clients are like, hey, I didn't know you offer that. Can you give it to me as well? So if I could just give it advice, if you're feeling imposter syndrome, if you're feeling intimidation, when people ask me what is my advice for battling imposter syndrome, my advice is to just do the work and take action. Because if you're doing the work, you're not an imposter anymore. You're an imposter if you're dreaming about it, saying you'll do it one day, pretending to do it. That is when you're the imposter because you're talking a big game, but you're not doing anything about it. If you are taking the action and showing up in some way to move the needle forward with that, you are no longer an imposter. You're actually doing the work. And so that's what comes across for me when someone asks me for a new type of service or a new type of product. I'm like, oh my gosh, can I do this? I'm like, well, let me just see what it looks like. Let me price this right. Let me practice, let me pull my camera out and see if I can and do reels and product things and things like that. And I'm like, okay, I'm doing the work. I'm not an imposter anymore. I'm actually doing the work and I'm going to charge for it and charge well.
I mean, Angie, I have my own story. Whenever someone says, but Colie, do you do commercial work? I'm like, yeah, but I have one commercial client. And they're like, explain that. I'm like, no, it's a dentist, which doesn't really sound very cool. I know, but listen, it's a dental. I call them a conglomerate. I mean, they're huge. They run out of Dallas, but they have all of these different locations where inside of their dental practice, they have a movie theater, they have a playground, they have Xboxes, they have iPads. Yeah. They try to make it a really fun experience for the kids. But so their marketing person, their project manager rather, he left me a voice message and I thought it was a joke. So I ignored him. And then he followed up with an email. And I was like, okay, so it wasn't a mistake.
Right.
I mean, I had a conversation with him. I did one shoot. Probably didn't charge enough money. Let's just be upfront. But
We've been there.
First one.
We've all been there.
Wanted to dip my toe. And then they had me do their second brand. And then they came back and they hired me to follow a couple of their dentists for a humanitarian trip to go to Mexico for a week. And then I also did another corporate shoot for them. Like, I mean, I've made tens of thousands of dollars at this point. But like when people are like, I think to myself, if I hadn't actually responded when he followed up, I would have missed out on like all of this opportunity. And it was only then. I mean, I don't have any other commercial clients, but now I know that doing commercial work for brands that are focused on families actually does bring me joy. And I mean, like, I'll be flipping through Instagram and I'll see several of my photos because they have like 3 different businesses. Like I see my photos everywhere and I'm like, I did that.
I love that. I can't believe they sent you to Mexico. That is awesome.
Yeah,
That's
it was
awesome.
so we went and they were doing a humanitarian trip. We did dental work
Mm-hmm.
in Merida, and then we went to like out in the middle of nowhere, and
Wow.
we did a day at a very small clinic there, and then the last day that they had me following the dentist was like the tourist day, because they wanted me to do these things because these were going on their recruitment
Oh yeah. Oh
website. So
yeah.
I mean, like, very different things
Mm-hmm.
that I have done for them. But I mean, it's all been great. I
Yeah.
mean, but they're like my one client that
Uh-huh.
I've gotten all of these jobs and all of this money for. And it's funny because somebody asked me recently, well, have you worked for them again recently? And I'm like, well, no. I mean, I gave them so much
Oh
content.
yeah.
They're
You
still
set
they're
them
still
up.
using the stuff I gave them from the first one. I
Mm-hmm.
mean,
You set them
when
up.
they need me again, they'll call.
Yeah. And now when a similar type of business reaches out, you've got
Yeah.
all that, set up already. That's great.
Mhm. Angie, this has been amazing. I feel like you and I should just chat
So
all the
fun.
time. But why don't you tell
Right.
my listening audience where they can find you? And also, I want you to talk about that amazing checklist, because the moment that we get off, I'm going to go download it.
Yes. So I'm, on my website, angiemcpherson.com. And of course, you can connect with me on the gram at Angie Janine. So AngieJanine. That's my first and middle name. Angie McPherson was taken, unfortunately.
Oh,
And yeah, so connect with me there. I do have a personal branding photography checklist, and it's a really good checklist for when you're planning out your next branding shoot to see what type of photos that you should be using in your business. So headshots, lifestyle photos, behind the scenes. It'll give you a nice little checklist so that you can just really beef up your inventory for, your brand imagery.
and guys, listen, I know that she just gave you all of her socials and stuff, but like, really, no bullshit. Please go follow her on Instagram, because you will instantly feel like you can do anything on Instagram. I mean, when I was watching her at the
Oh,
conference, I was like, oh my God, I'm going to sit here and make a list of all the reels that I'm going to create, because it was just so
yeah.
inspiring. And so, Angie,
Oh,
thank you so
yay.
much for coming on my podcast and sharing
Thank you
all
for
of your
having
wisdom with
me.
the listeners. Everyone, that's it for today. See you next time. Bye.